Hello, welcome to day 3 of the TLYC Sock Challenge using Magic Loop. So we are here now and we have finished the heel flap. We're about to do the heel turn, so going around the bottom of your heel. And that goes out through the center of the heel flap, so that's where it's positioned. So the heel turn is positioned in the center of the heel flap, and that is very, very important. So what I'm going to do first, and the stitches just remain as they were, so you have your instep stitches are still at the back, and you're not going to work them, you're just going to be working this on the heel flap stitches. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to knit 15 stitches, because I'm making the smallest size, and this is in the heel turn part of the pattern that you're following. So I'm going to knit 15 stitches. It's about 3/4 of the way across the heel flap. You're trying to position it just towards the left hand side as you started off. And now you can see here as well that your instep stitches are untouched, just sitting at the back of the work with nothing to do with them at the moment. Just leave them as they are. And you're working this part flat as well. So you knit your 15 stitches and you come to the end, and then what you're going to do is you are going to do a slip slip knit. So the way that's done is you insert your right needle into as knitwise and then do it again to the next stitch, and then you slip those back onto the left hand needle. That's turned them round, so they're sitting differently on the needle, and then you knit into the back of those 2 stitches. That is your first decrease of your heel turn, and you have on the left hand side there you will have 5 unworked stitches. You then turn your work. So it's fine that you have unworked stitches, that's part of it, because you're essentially folding a little bit of the flap back over onto your turn. It's quite interesting how it shapes up. So those are your 5 unworked stitches, and now we're getting to work back. So in this row you're going to slip the first stitch purlwise with the yarn in front, and that is not as key as it was when you were doing the flap, but it's part of the way the heel looks. So you're going to purl 8 stitches having slipped the first one, so there'll be 9 stitches then. Then we're going to fix this because I think I've gone too many. Yep, put that back. So now I have 9 stitches, which I'm supposed to have. So 1 slipped and 8 worked. And then I'm going to purl 2 stitches together. So you go into the purlwise as if to purl, but you go through 2 stitches. And again, that is your matching decrease for the one that you've done on the other side. So that's the matching. And then you can see that you have 5 unworked stitches on the left as well, and they correspond to those on the right. That's really important and a very easy way to check after every purl row that you are right and that it is still in the center of your heel flap. So you slip purlwise with yarn in back this time, and then you knit your next 8 stitches. Now something to bear in mind here is that in some patterns you will see knit to 1 before the gap rather than giving you a specific stitch count, and all that is that is to take you to the last worked stitch of your flap of your turn, and then to the next unworked stitch. There's a gap between the worked and the unworked is there. So what you're going to do to bridge that gap then is you are going to do a slip slip knit to bridge it. And this is how you're doing the short rows in this. That's why there's no wrapping and turning or anything. They're just joining across the gap, slip slip knit, knit the 2 of those together as part of the knit, and then you have 4 unworked stitches on the left hand side. Then you turn your work, and then you're going to purl back. So you slip the yarn purlwise with the yarn in front, and then you purl 8. And again you may see the instruction purl to 1 before the gap, and again that's the worked stitch and the unworked stitches. So it's the gap between those is the gap that some patterns are talking about. So you can see it there. It's quite obvious where it is, and now you're going to purl those 2 stitches together to close that gap. And you can see then as well that you have 4 and 4, and again that is key. It tells you you're on the right track with the heel turn centered in the middle. If you manage to spend a lifetime knitting socks without veering off to one side, you'll be doing very well. I've definitely done it plenty of times, which just means rip back and start again. It's not something to fudge, I would suggest. So here we purl again, slip purlwise and then knit 8, 1 before the gap. And then we're going to slip slip knit it again. Now we talked in the previous tutorial about reinforcing, and that does not go into the heel turn generally. But if the pattern needs you to do anything funny, it'll tell you. So that is 3 stitches unworked, and then we're going to slip one purlwise, purl back 8, and we're going to purl 2 together at the other side. Another note here is that this is a square heel turn. There are different shapes of heel turn, and the pattern you're following will tell you what to do. Some of them are more round, some are square. There are other heel turn types as well, using different types of short rows. And I'm going to go away and finish this until I'm on the last rows of the turn, and I'll show you how that looks then. So now you're onto the last row, and I just want to show you this. You've finished knitting you've just about to knit your 8th stitch. You're coming to the end, and you're going to slip, slip, knit, and in this one you're working the very last unworked stitch, and this is an indicator that you've finished your heel turn. So sometimes you'll see patterns and they will say work until all stitches have been worked, and that is what this means. My pattern doesn't tell you that, it'll tell you how many rows to work, but just in case you see differences in other patterns. Now we're going to slip one purlwise, and we're going to do the last purl row of the heel turn, working the last stitch on the left hand side. If you've been going evenly along, fingers crossed. So if you purl those 2 stitches together, there you are. You have now turned the heel of your work. It's a square heel turn, and you can see there that you have gone from being all the way around the back of your heel and under your foot. So I'll be back tomorrow to show you how to pick up the gusset, but you might as well admire your heel flap for now. Thank you so much.